What if I told you the world you know is full of secrets you've never imagined? From jaw-dropping phenomena to mind-bending realities, today we uncover the unexpected. Ready to have your mind blown? Let's dive in. Number 101. Did you know clouds are surprisingly heavy? A single cloud can weigh around 1,000,000 tons. Yet it floats because its density is just slightly lower than the air around it. 100. Giraffes versus lightning. These tall creatures are 30 times more likely to be struck by lightning than humans. With only 5 documented fatalities between 1996 and 2010, their height makes them a rare but unfortunate target. 99. Identical twins aren't truly identical. Even their fingerprints are unique. Factors like umbilical cord length and womb position shape these differences. 98. Earth's days are getting longer. Our planet's rotation is slowing, adding 1.8 seconds per century to the day. 600 million years ago, a day lasted just 21 hours. 97. Your brain is a self-cleaning machine. Through a process called phagocytosis, it eats its own cells to stay healthy. It's like housekeeping for your gray matter. 96. Dino dung is a thing. The largest fossilized dinosaur poop ever found is over 30 centimeters long and holds over 2 liters of, well, prehistoric leftovers. It's thought to belong to a T-Rex. 95. The universe's color? Beige. Astronomers call it cosmic latte, a soft beige hue averaging the light from galaxies. Number 94. Time moves differently for animals. Small creatures, like lizards and salamanders, perceive time in slow motion compared to larger animals, giving them quicker reactions. 93. Water isn't technically wet. Wetness refers to a liquid's ability to stick to solid surfaces. So, water itself isn't wet. It just makes other things wet. 92. The headless chicken that lived. In the 1940s, a chicken named Mike survived 18 months without a head. He lived because his jugular vein remained intact. 91. Bacteria stacked on top of each other would stretch for 10 billion light years. Earth's tiny microbes, just 0.001 mm long, could wrap around the Milky Way over 20,000 times. Number 90. Wearing a tie can constrict blood flow to the brain by 7.5%. A study in 2018 found that neckties can reduce blood flow to the brain by up to 7.5%, causing dizziness, nausea, and headaches. They can also increase eye pressure if too tight and are great at carrying germs. 89. Hippopotomonstros. Quipedaliophobia is the fear of long words. The 36-letter word was first used by the Roman poet Horace in the 1st century BCE to criticize writers who used overly long words. American poet Amy Nechhukumatathil, possibly afraid of their own surname, coined the term in 2000. 88. The world's oldest dog lived to an impressive 29.5 years old. While the average dog lives to be 10 to 15 years, one Australian cattle dog named Bluey broke the record. 87. The world's oldest cat lived to a whopping 38 years and 3 days old. Cream Puff holds the record for the longest living cat. 86. The sun makes a sound, but we can't hear it. In the form of pressure waves, the sun creates sound, but these waves are too long for our ears to detect. Number 85. Mount Everest isn't the tallest mountain on Earth. Mauna Kea and Mauna Loa in Hawaii, the twin volcanoes, are taller than Everest because a significant part of their heights is underwater. Mauna Kea and Mauna Loa measure a staggering 10.2 kilometers in total, compared to Everest's 4.6 kilometers. 84. Our solar system has a boundary called the heliopause. It's the region where the solar wind isn't strong enough to push back the wind of particles from distant stars. This boundary marks the edge of our solar system and interstellar space. 83. Did you know that octopuses don't have tentacles? They have 8 arms, but most of them are called arms. Scientists say that when talking about cephalopods, like octopuses, squids, and cuttlefish, tentacles are arms with suckers at the end. Octopus arms have suckers all the way down their length. 82. Guess what? Most maps of the world are wrong. The Mercator projection, which was first created in 1569, is still used on most maps, but it's super inaccurate and makes Alaska look like it's the same size as Brazil and Greenland, which is 14 times bigger. If we want a completely accurate map, it would need to be life-size and round, not flat. 81. NASA did fake part of the moon landing, but it wasn't the first step on the moon. The astronaut quarantine protocol when they came back to Earth was just a big show. Number 80. Comets smell like rotten eggs, urine, burning matches, and almonds. Scientists found traces of hydrogen sulfide, ammonia, sulfur dioxide, and hydrogen cyanide in the comet 67P/Churyumov-Gerasimenko. They even made promotional postcards with the pungent scent of a comet. 79. Earth's poles are moving. This magnetic reversal of the North and South Pole has happened 171 times in the past 71 million years. We're overdue for a flip. It could happen soon because the North Pole is moving at around 55 kilometers per year, which is faster than it used to be. 78. You can actually die laughing, and a few people have, usually because they laughed so hard that they had a heart attack or suffocated. Comedy shows should come with a warning. 77. Chainsaws were first invented for childbirth. They were developed in Scotland in the late 18th century to help with symphysiotomy, widening the pubic cartilage, and removing diseased bone during childbirth. It wasn't until the early 20th century that we started using chainsaws for wood chopping. 76. Ants don't have lungs. Instead, they breathe through tiny openings called spiracles, which can be 9 or 10 depending on the species. 75. Guess what? The T-Rex probably had feathers too. Scientists in China found early Cretaceous period tyrannosaur skeletons that were covered in feathers. If the ancestors of the T-Rex had feathers, then the T-Rex probably did too. 74. Did you know that football teams wearing red kits tend to play better? The color of our clothes can affect how others perceive us and even change our moods. A study of football matches over the past 55 years showed that teams wearing a red kit consistently played better in home matches than teams in any other color. 73. Wind turbines can be a bit of a menace to birds, killing between 10,000 to 100,000 birds each year in the UK. But here's something interesting. Painting one of the blades of a wind turbine black can reduce bird deaths by a whopping 70%. 72. Snails have teeth, but they're not like ours. They have thousands of tiny teeth all over their long, sticky tongues. So, don't expect to see snails with big, toothy grins. 71. Sound can be measured in decibels, and the quietest place on Earth is Microsoft's anechoic chamber in Redmond, Washington, USA. It's so quiet that it's at minus 20.6 decibels. These chambers are made of heavy concrete and brick, and are mounted on springs to stop vibrations from getting in. 70. Horses are powerful animals, and they can actually have more than 1 horsepower. A study in 1993 showed that the maximum power a horse can produce is around 24 horsepower. 69. Your signature could actually reveal some interesting things about you. A study in 2016 found that among men, a larger signature is linked to higher social confidence, while among women, a bigger signature is associated with narcissistic traits. 68. And here's something rare. 1 in 18 people have a third nipple. It's called polythelia, and it's caused by a mutation in inactive genes. 67. Bananas are radioactive. They're loaded with potassium, which contains a natural isotope called potassium-40. Guess what? Your body has about 16 milligrams of potassium-40, making you 280 times more radioactive than a banana. But don't worry, your body gets rid of any extra potassium-40 in a few hours. 66. Everything is a bit wonky, even a laser beam. Zoom in close enough and you'll see it's not a perfect straight line. 65. Deaf people can use sign language in their sleep. A study found a 71-year-old man with a hearing impairment who used fluent sign language in his dreams. Researchers could even guess what he was dreaming about based on the signs. 64. Finland is the happiest country on Earth. They've been the top pick for 6 years in a row. It's no surprise, given that Finland is home to Santa Claus, reindeer, and 1 sauna for every 1.59 people. 63. Hippos can't swim. They have massive bones that make them barely buoyant. Instead, they move around on the riverbed or seafloor like they're walking on land. And guess what? Hippos can even sleep underwater. They have a reflex that lets them bob up, take a breath, and sink back down without waking up. 62. The moon looks upside down in the southern hemisphere, compared to the northern hemisphere anyway. So, the man in the moon is upside down in the southern hemisphere and looks more like a rabbit. 61. You can yo-yo in space. In 2012, NASA astronaut Don Petit took a yo-yo on board the International Space Station and showed off some cool tricks. It works because a yo-yo relies on the laws of conservation of angular momentum, which apply in microgravity too. Number 60. Did you know that not only plants can photosynthesize? Algae, which are not plants, and some other organisms like sea slugs and pea aphids also contain chlorophyll and can use sunlight to create energy. 59. You might not realize it, but you could be pregnant and not know it. Cryptic pregnancies are not uncommon, with about 1 in 500 women not recognizing their pregnancy until at least halfway through, and 1 in 2,500 women not knowing until labor starts. If you're new here, hit the subscribe button so you make sure to never miss our videos. 58. Bacteria on your skin can cause itches. Specifically, bacteria called Staphylococcus aureus can release a chemical that activates a protein in our nerves. This sends a signal from our skin to our brains, which our brain interprets as an itch. 57. Starfish don't have bodies. Along with other echinoderms like sea urchins and sand dollars, their entire bodies are technically considered heads. 56. In 2013, an unfortunate Indian woman had to undergo surgery to remove a fecal mass as large as a football due to constipation. 55. You travel an incredible 2.5 million kilometers every day around the sun without even realizing it. The Earth's orbit travels around the Sun's center at 2.5 million kilometers and around the center of the Milky Way at 19 million kilometers. 54. Fish form orderly queues in emergencies. When evacuating through narrow spaces in dangerous situations, schools of neon tetrafish queue so they don't collide or block the line. Scientists believe this behavior shows that fish can respect social rules even in emergency situations, unlike humans. 53. Guess what? There are more bacterial cells in your body than human cells. The average human is around 56% bacteria. This was discovered in a 2016 study and is much lower than the earlier estimates of 90%. However, since bacteria are so light, by weight, each person is over 99.7% human. 52. Most ginger cats are male. There are about 3 ginger male cats for every ginger female. This is because the ginger gene is on the X chromosome, so female cats would need 2 copies of the gene to become ginger, while males only need 1. 51. Did you know that your nails grow faster in the summer? It's probably because your body sends more blood to your fingertips, and you're less stressed while you're on vacation, so you're less likely to bite them. Number 50. Speaking of insects, did you know that they can fly up to 3.25 kilometers above sea level? Alpine bumblebees have been found living as high up as 3.25 kilometers above sea level, and they can even fly in lab conditions that replicate the air density and oxygen levels at 9 kilometers, which is just higher than Mount Everest. 49. Now, for something a little out of this world, there's a planet mostly made of diamond called 55 Cancri E. It's about twice the size of Earth and is located about 40 light years away from us in the Cancer constellation. But wait, there's more. Did you know that animals can be allergic to humans? They can be allergic to our dead skin cells, which we call dander. These allergic reactions can be just like ours, including breathing difficulties and skin irritation. 47. Being bored is actually a high arousal state physiologically. This is because when you're bored, your heart rate increases. 46. Platypuses. You won't believe this, sweat milk. It's because they don't have teats. Milk appears as sweat on a platypus, but it's an aquatic mammal, so it doesn't actually sweat at all. 45. And here's a fun fact. Lego bricks are stronger than concrete. An ordinary plastic Lego brick can support the weight of 375,000 other bricks before it fails. This means you could theoretically build a tower nearing 3.5 kilometers in height, but scaling this up to house-sized bricks would be a bit too expensive. 44. Now, for something a bit darker, martial artists who smile before a match are more likely to lose. This could be because a smile can convey fear or submissiveness. 43. It's almost impossible to get too much sugar from fresh fruit. While the sugar in fruit is mostly fructose and glucose, fructose is what your body converts into fat, you can't get too much sugar from fresh fruit. Fresh fruit contains a lot of fiber and water, which slows down your digestion and makes you feel full. 42. And here's a weird fact. You don't like the sound of your own voice because of the bones in your head. This may be because the bones in our head make our voice sound deeper. 41. Have you ever heard of a rainbow on Venus? It's called a glory, and it looks like a bunch of colorful rings around the planet. But here's the cool part. It's not made like a rainbow on Earth. Instead, it's caused by tiny droplets in the Venusian atmosphere. Number 40. Now let's talk about protons. They're like little balls of energy, and they come in all sorts of shapes and sizes. But here's the catch. Their shape changes depending on how fast the smaller particles inside them are moving. These particles are called quarks, and they're like the building blocks of protons. 39. Mirrors? You know, those shiny things we use to see our reflection? Well, they don't work like that forever. Each time you look at your reflection in a mirror, it gets a little bit darker and fades away. This is because mirrors absorb some of the light that hits them. Speaking of light, did you know that there might be a way to cure psychopathy? Well, sort of. Psychologists say that cognitive behavioral therapy can help people with psychopathy learn better ways to think and behave. And guess what? Computer-based cognitive training might even help them feel empathy and regret. 37. All mammals, including humans, get goosebumps. When your hair stands on end, it's because tiny muscles at the base of each hair contract. This makes the skin stretch and creates goosebumps. This process is called piloerection, and it's found in all mammals. Hair or fur helps trap an insulating layer of air, keeping us warm in cold weather. 36. Football players spit a lot during games. Why? Well, exercise increases the amount of protein in our saliva. And guess what? A protein mucus called MUC5B makes our saliva thicker when we're exercising. This makes it harder to swallow, so we tend to spit more. It might also happen because we breathe through our mouths more when we're exercising. 35. And here's something interesting. Some animals display traits similar to autism. These traits include repetitive behaviors and unusual social habits. 34. You tend to remember more dreams when you sleep poorly. Research shows that if you have a rough night's sleep and wake up multiple times, you're more likely to recall your dreams. And if you're woken up from a dream, you're even more likely to remember it. 33. Have you ever noticed that you can sweat when you're feeling anxious? Well, scientists think we've evolved to sweat when we're anxious to alert others around us. This way, our brains can get ready for whatever's making us feel that way. Brain scans have shown that when we sniff the sweat of someone who's panicked, certain areas of the brain that handle emotional and social signals light up. 32. Lightning is super hot. It's 5 times hotter than the surface of the sun. The charge carried by a lightning bolt is so intense that it has a temperature of 30,000 degrees Celsius, 54,000 degrees Fahrenheit. 31. And here's something mind-blowing. The longest anyone has ever held their breath underwater is over 24 minutes and 37 seconds. That's crazy! On average, a human can hold their breath between 30 and 90 seconds. Number 30. Oh, and did you know that the moon is shrinking? But only a tiny bit, about 50 meters, 164 feet, in radius over the past few 100 million years. Scientists think that mysterious seismic activity, called moonquakes, might be the cause. 29. Dogs tilt their heads when you talk to them to better hear familiar words. They're doing this to pinpoint where noises are coming from faster, and listen more accurately for words like walkies. This helps them understand the tone of your voice better. If a dog doesn't tilt its head often, like those with shorter muzzles, it's because it relies less on sound and more on sight. 28. If the Earth doubled in size, trees would fall over right away. This is because surface gravity would double. It would also mean big animals like dogs couldn't run without breaking a leg. 27. Mercury is the closest planet to Earth on average. On average, Mercury is 1.04 astronomical units, AU, away from Earth. compared to the 1.14 AU average distance between Earth and Venus. 1 AU is equal to the average distance between the Earth and the Sun. Venus still comes closest to Earth as part of its orbit around the Sun, though. 26. Flamingos aren't born pink. They actually come into the world with gray-white feathers and only get pink after eating brine shrimp and blue-green algae. 25. You can smell ants. Many species of ants release strong-smelling chemicals when they're angry, threatened, or being squished. Trapjaw ants release a chocolatey smell when annoyed, while citronella ants get their name from the lemony smell they give off. 24. People who eat whatever they want and stay slim have a slow metabolism, not fast. A skinny person usually has less muscle mass than others, so their basal metabolic rate, BMR, is lower than those of people with more muscle. This gives them a slow metabolism, not a fast one. 23. Earth is about 4.54 billion years old, give or take 50 million years. That means our planet is half the age of the Milky Way galaxy, 11 to 13 billion years old, and around a third of the age of the universe, 10 to 15 billion years old. 22. Scientists think electrons might live forever. They've estimated that the minimum lifetime of an electron is about 66,000 yotta years. Since this is about 5 quintillion times the age of the universe, even if electrons don't live forever, they might as well. 21. Did you know that the Queen Alexandra's birdwing butterfly has a wingspan of an impressive 31 centimeters? It's found in the forests of the Oro province in Papua New Guinea. Number 20. Beavers don't actually live in dams. They build a lodge behind a dam in a deep pool of water. 19. Surprisingly, the average dinosaur lifespan was pretty short. The Tyrannosaurus rex, for example, reached full size between 16 to 22 years old and lived up until 27 to 33. The biggest dinosaurs like the Brontosaurus and Diplodocus lived up to between 39 to 53 years old, maybe reaching the heights of 70. 18. Someone left a family photo on the moon. When Apollo 16 astronaut Charles Duke landed on the moon in 1972, he decided to leave behind a photo of himself, his 2 sons, and his wife. The photo is still there on the moon today. 17. Giraffes hum to talk to each other. It's thought that the low-frequency humming could be a way for giraffes to communicate with each other, especially when they're separated from their herd. Some researchers even think they sleep talk too. 16. And get this, glass sponges can live for an incredible 15,000 years. That makes them one of the longest living organisms on Earth. But there's this thing called the immortal jellyfish, and scientists think it could theoretically live forever. 15. Some frogs can freeze without dying. Certain frogs, like the wood frog, have a remarkable survival trick. They can freeze solid during winter, with ice forming in their bodies, and then thaw out and hop away when the weather warms up. Their special proteins prevent their cells from being damaged by the ice. 14. Summer is also known for its rise in murder rates. Have you ever felt angry or irritable when the weather is hot? Well, you're not alone. Violent crime tends to increase during the summer months, and in the US, murder rates reportedly rise by 2.7% over the summer. 13. Speaking of smells, did you know that the new car smell is actually a mix of over 200 chemicals? These chemicals include the sickly sweet, toxic hydrocarbons benzene and toluene. 12. Now here's something interesting. Sea level isn't actually level. As the Earth spins, the average sea level bulges outward at the equator, putting it further from the center of the Earth than at the poles. Differences in the strength of the Earth's gravity at different points also cause variations in sea level. 11. You might be surprised to learn that you inhale 50 potentially harmful bacteria every time you breathe. But don't worry, your immune system is hard at work, quickly destroying most of these bacteria without you even noticing. Phew. Number 10. And here's a fun fact. You can see stars as they were 4,000 years ago with your naked eye. Without a telescope, all the stars we can see lie within about 4,000 light years of us. That means, at most, you're seeing stars as they were around when the pyramids were being built in Egypt. 9. Plants came before seeds, according to the fossil record. Early plants looked like moss and reproduced with single-celled spores. Multicellular seeds didn't evolve for another 150 million years. 8. And finally, here's something gross but true. Our dead cells are eaten by other cells in our body. Don't worry, it's meant to happen. When cells inside your body die, they're scavenged by phagocytes, white blood cells that digest other cells. 7. Contrary to popular belief, bats aren't blind. They can see, but they use their incredible echolocation to find food. 6. Pine trees can actually predict when it's going to rain. Next time you see a pine cone, take a closer look. If it's closed, that's because the air is humid, which is a sign that rain is on its way. 5. You won't believe this, but you can't fold a piece of A4 paper more than 8 times. As the number of layers doubles each time, the paper gets too thick and too small to fold. The current world record for paper folding is held by Brittany Gallivan, a high school student from California who managed to fold a 1.2 kilometers long piece of tissue paper 12 times in 2002. 4. Guess what? Laughing came before language. How do we know? Some researchers tickled baby apes, and they showed that they share the same structure as ours and likely evolved from our common ancestors millions of years ago. Language came much later. 3. And here's a fun fact. Your brain burns a whopping 400 to 500 calories every day. That's about a fifth of your total energy needs. Most of this is spent on controlling your muscles and processing sensory information. But some studies show that solving tricky problems can also increase your brain's metabolic requirements. 2. Guess what? It rains methane on Saturn's biggest moon, Titan. Titan is the only moon in our solar system with a thick atmosphere and the only body except Earth with liquid rivers, lakes, and seas that are filled with rain. But here's the catch. It's not water, it's liquid methane. Number 1. Did you know that smells can travel through liquids? But please don't try smelling underwater. Your nose won't thank you. However, smell can indeed pass through liquids. That's all for today. Subscribe to our channel for more fun videos.